nobody ever calls back. I'm just being honest with you. Nobody calls back. And I looked at the agent and I said, I bet you $5 he doesn't call back.
With them in front of you?
Yes, in front of the client. And that was the one time that the client called back.
Hello and welcome to episode 7 of the Life Insurance Academy podcast. I'm your host, Austin Lope-Silvero, and I'm here with Chris Ball, Zach McElwain, and Roger Short. The LIA podcast takes you out of the classroom and into the conversations of top producing agents in life insurance sales so you can level up your business. For Cliff Notes and resources, visit liapodcast.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad for show updates. Thanks for joining us. We're in the middle of a series where we deep dive into the 5 real reasons why people don't buy. And we touched on that in episode 3 and 4. Today, we'll be tearing apart the idea that drives millions of people to sit in traffic, camp overnight, run through malls, drive up credit card debt. A, quote fingers, flash sale that's, quote, today only. Buy now before it's gone. Now, today we are talking about urgency and how to develop or rather uncover it during your sale. Guys, any recent urgency-inspired sales, not that you've made for people, but that you've actually bought something?
Well, there's somebody in this room that I don't want to mention had a lot of urgency when it came to basketball cards that I got to witness, and it was really exciting to be able to see that. And then after the bug bit him, it bit him a little bit harder about 5 minutes later.
Yep.
But it was pretty exciting to see. But the urgency was cool, and you know, got to see a little sales tactics from the man behind the counter.
Yep.
You know, well, I will tell you. He said, "I will tell you this: the pack did cost $40 more last week or less last week, so it keeps going up."
Yep.
Oh,
Did you buy
Creating
Chris?
urgency. There's a guy.
There's a guy.
We were in the room and some guy was buying packs. And
Yeah.
And you bought them all.
well, okay, I did. Yes. Yes.
You were the guy.
I am that man.
Are you
I am
selling?
that
Are you
man.
reselling these? Is that what you're doing?
I flipped a few cards here
You
and there.
flipped them. Are you
I'd say-
throwing them in with the foot game, with the sneaker game that you got going?
Yep, we got a little bit of a sneaker game with my kids, and now we're doing a little card action here. And
you want to talk about urgency? Try buying like a pair of shoes nowadays. Like they have these, you go online, and if you don't buy them in that instant, like the Yeezys, then they're gone.
Yeezys.
well, matter of fact, we have.
To continue the story, like
I didn't even know this one.
well, it just keeps unfolding. But you know, the craziest thing is I haven't collected cards since I was a kid.
It's
you know?
completely different now.
It's a different ball game, and it's all about the flip and the sell. But it's all about urgency, because when they release these certain packs for the certain year, like this year's theme is Zion and Ja. So there's 2 rookies in the NBA that have potential to be, you know, greats. So they're featured on these cards and these boxes. There could be autographed ones that are already worth like what?
$1,500 to $5,000. I
Right.
mean, it's
Oh my
bonkers.
God.
And and so you don't know which one you're going to get. But the craziest thing is, and I'm just learning. Chris is already like, "Oh man, check this out, and I haven't bought any cards, by the way. But you know, with each box that's sold, each hobby box that's sold, there's less available.
Right.
So the value everywhere and across all the stores keeps going up, keeps
Yeah.
getting more expensive.
It's bonkers.
And then this week, when we were serving clients, well, Chris, you can tell them.
So in the morning, on a Wednesday morning at 10 o'clock, they were releasing this box of cards, and I was ready. I was at my laptop, and I had my finger posed on the button to buy them. The box was $100. Okay.
What's it going for?
Well, we'll get there. We'll
Okay.
get there. And at 10 o'clock, I click the button. Volume is too high. Try again. Frantically click the button. Volume's too high. Try again. Try again. Try again. 5 minutes, gone.
Oh my
Product's gone. They're sold now for $450 a box.
Jeez.
It's crazy.
I mean, that's like, you know, we try and get these tickets to like these bourbon events where you know
yeah?
they're releasing like a certain bottle.
yeah.
And if you like, they'll send an email out saying, "Hey, tickets are now available for birthday bourbon breakfast," and it's always on a Sunday because in Kentucky you
shouldn't be
buy
drinking bourbon for
alcohol
breakfast.
before.
That's not a good
right,
idea.
You can't buy
Don't put it
alcohol
on your
before
cereal.
1.
That's gross.
So like they know you have to wait no matter what.
Yeah.
So like they always plan it on a Sunday. But the second you get the email, like if you hadn't checked your phone the second you got it, it was gone, right? Like it's just this whole idea of urgency. And that kind of leads me to my next question of like, do you all have sales in life insurance? Like, is there like a deal or like?
Yeah, we sell that carrier that offers the afternoon special, the happy hour, where they drop the rate between 4 and 6.
Happy hour.
Yeah, the happy hour rate special
No,
carrier.
but
You know?
when you think about this, Austin, is
There's
no
probably
matter
going to be a carrier to come
no
out with
matter
that
if
at
it's,
some point.
no matter if it's bourbon, no matter if it's cards, no matter what it is, it's the scarcity. It's the fear of you not being able to get it. And that directly relates to what we do every day in the home because, you know, they may run out of bourbon bottles. They made so many, or there's only so many Zion boxes left to buy in the store. But the client could simply have a heart attack tomorrow or today, and all of a sudden their opportunity to get coverage may be limited or gone completely. So it's a lot of the same, and you know it's up to us to help educate the client on that value, in the home, and just like the guy at the card store elevated the value of Chris sitting across the counter. Oh, I didn't say any names, but the guy that I
The
witnessed.
guy at the card store. Yeah.
It's interesting because we went out shopping for something before the Super Bowl, and there was all kinds of paraphernalia and things available. And then we realized, well, we're going to this party. We probably should bring something. And so I went back. There was like nothing. There's just generic Super Bowl stuff. Like there's nothing with Kansas City, nothing with the 49ers left. And so then you got to go.
There's not even anything to buy like buffalo chicken dip. Like,
it's gone.
it's all gone.
It's gone because like it's a time. It's time.
Time
If you don't
sensitive.
get it before, you're out.
But you guys have seen it too with like Black Friday. Black Friday's Thursday now. Like Thanksgiving Day
It's
is
like Wednesday at this point.
Yeah.
You know?
There was a time when they used to open up the stores at like 5 a.m. and people
Right.
would
Oh
line
yeah,
up.
doorbusters.
Did you guys line up?
I never did.
You weren't a lineup?
I was never. No.
Let me tell you
Not
from
to
someone
save
that has
$20
worked
more than I could.
like Black Friday, like at Best Buy, like miserable,
yeah.
miserable.
I stayed overnight once.
Yeah,
Yep.
To get an Xbox.
To get a PlayStation 3.
I knew it was going to be a game station or something like that. Yeah.
We had a tent and everything. What nerds.
Yeah. and basically it was $10 or $20 less than you could have
I
bought
know
it
it. I know
online at any other
Yep.
time over the
Absolutely.
weekend. Yeah.
It's so sad.
after
you
this,
stayed
let me show
outside
you
for
a site called
$20.
eBay. You know,
What is
Yeah.
that? Tell me more.
oh man, it's like a permanent garage sale online.
That's right. That's exactly what it is.
So yeah, it's hard to. It's a different animal when you're sitting with somebody about life insurance, right? You're sitting in a home. They filled out a card. They responded online. You're sitting with them. It's a lead driven, maybe an opportunity. You're sitting there. You don't have the blue light special. There's no swipe up now for 25 off, and there's no happy hours for 4 to 6. So the trick is, how do you create a sense of urgency, in this game? It's a difficult challenge.
Now, when we talked about need and want in the last episode, you all said, you don't develop it, right? Like it's already there. You're just uncovering it. Is it the same process for urgency, or does it look different?
That's a good question.
Yeah, when you think about these, like we can have different podcasts, we can have different episodes, but they're all kind of mixed together. It's like mashed potatoes and gravy. Sometimes it sits on top, but it's kind of in there.
Yeah, I have it separate.
Yeah.
You have to have those separate?
Well, different strokes. But when you think about it, like those questions you're asking to find the need, you're also building value. Like we talked about, you're painting the picture of what would happen to the family without it, which at the same time is making this product or this need to take care of it for their family scarce. And what that does, it makes it more valuable. It makes the clients want it, but it also makes them want it now because of the fear of not being able to have that.
Yeah. And it's not enough to just want it. It's to want it now, right?
Yeah.
And I would say it's kind of a both and in a way. Like it is developed. It's kind of discovered a little bit, but it's also created. I remember I was waiting tables back in the day, and I was famous for not having a sense of urgency. I would just talk to people, you know.
That's probably important when, I order some food or water.
Yeah, because people want their food. They want it now, and
you don't mess with people and their food.
I'd have to be reminded, Chris, you need urgency. Chris, you need urgency. And it kind of is like that with clients in a way in some cases where we have to come alongside and make sure that they understand the importance of it.
Yeah, people, back in sales, we talked about people buy for one of two reasons. They either buy opportunity of gain or a fear of loss. Opportunity for gain or fear of loss. And so if you think about everything that we do, most of it is opportunity for gain. But sometimes the biggest urgency opportunities are fear of loss. And so in our narratives, as we're talking to people about real life situations, their family, their situations, like there's a couple key things that we need to focus on. Number one is elevating value. Whenever you elevate value on anything, the urgency goes up. Like people are willing to pay more and they're willing to buy it now as value goes up. So and oftentimes it's a perceived value. The value might be inherent. It might be an inherent value. They just don't understand it. However, once you, like if someone promotes to you a place where you can get a free stock online, Austin, and what was it called? What's it
Robinhood.
Robinhood.
Are we sponsored? Are we sponsored by Robinhood?
I don't know if we're sponsored by Robinhood, but I'd be open for some affiliate stuff.
So
Use my code.
Chris, I think, started this, right?
Yes.
You started it, and you got some free stocks through
I did.
Robinhood.
Through the Robinhood app, correct.
And I think a couple of them are Facebook shares.
Yeah, I got Facebook stock and a Berkshire Hathaway stock. So that was
Yeah,
like
over
400 and...
Yeah, $400 some for free.
I don't think you got the Berkshire Hathaway A stock. No,
No,
not that one.
I got the B stock.
Yeah, not that one. But so you got some, and so you share this with other people,
Right.
And then they can receive, right? They automatically
Correct.
get one, and then if they refer other people,
They get one.
the person that they referred gets one, and then the referee also gets one.
Yes.
So apparently you shared it with Zach,
Yes.
and then you're in a room and you're both talking it up to Austin, and he immediately is jumping on there to grab
did.
it because what? Why were you doing
Well,
that?
so like here's the thing is, when you're talking about value just now, and I'm thinking about that, like if Chris was like, yeah, you get a free stock, but all of his stocks were the $3 stocks, and I'm like, okay, like whatever.
Or the 30-cent
I'm
stocks.
not really that interested.
But and maybe this is strategy on their part, was
Or
they
my
gave
part.
the first they gave the first guy a high value stock, so then everyone that he refers thinks, oh well, I could get that high value.
I'm gonna get a
versus
Facebook stock.
giving a $3 stock, right? Because all of the ones I've gotten have been $3 to $4 stocks, and the people I refer are like, yeah, like I don't need to do that. Like there's no urgency because there is no value.
No fear of missing out.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. Versus like, like I could get a $200 stock. Like
Yes.
I need to do this.
So
see if
in
I
your
get it.
mind, the value was
The value was
elevated when you
so
saw
elevated. $400.
perspective from him. Yeah.
Well, and there's another piece to that, and I don't even know if it's in our notes, but there is a level of enthusiasm on my part of communicating.
Correct.
Like, holy cow, I got a Facebook stock. Can you believe this? Look at I'm showing you my phone,
and you could get one.
you could get one.
What?
Right. So
It was so funny. I walk in the room and I'm getting texts from both Zach and Austin at the same time saying,
Use
"No,
my code.
that one's
Use my
mine.
code."
That one's mine. Use my code." And I literally got hit with two. By the way, I haven't signed up for any.
I'm so proud of
Hey,
you.
mine was the first one.
I'm so proud of you, Roger.
I went direct. They gave me a Facebook stock.
There you go. You went direct.
Yeah.
Direct to Robinhood.
So there's this sense of when value is elevated in anything, urgency goes up and a willingness to pay a higher price goes up. People are willing to pay more and they're willing to do it now. So the question is, how do we do that, right? In our sits with clients, how do we elevate value? And number two, how do we make it easy for them to go forward and make a decision today? So those are the two areas that I think this conversation is going to dial into today, on those two areas, because I think a lot of agents make things complicated. Like there's way too many options. They're talking about way too many things. What should be a one call close turns into this diatribe of multiple appointments, and then everyone's still thinking about it.
Yeah.
And it's not clear. Like there's elevate the value, have some good discussion, and then make it simple for them to decide and move forward. So
Yeah, and we've kind of spent some time. We talked about last episode the 1999 questions, right? Like these questions that are high value, that help discover the need and want in a client. Are there any questions? They might be the same, they might be similar, that that would be related to urgency that you can use to uncover and develop?
I do think it does start in our transition from core to the presentation, and I don't know if we mentioned it in the other conversations, but it is, what made you start thinking about final expenses, or what made you start, I'll say, what made you start thinking about dying? What made you start thinking about that? And I know Zach teaches to say, some folks have some health scares. Some people have lost people, and it causes them to reflect and fill out the information and request, fill out the card or the online and request information. So I think that's the beginning of it, is kind of getting to the heart of the matter and asking those questions, clarifying questions.
I agree, and that's in that particular spot. I know we're backing up here a little bit, but I like to build that emotion and find out the relationship and the love, and I follow up with my transition. Is that what made you start thinking about final expenses and taking care of your loved ones? And then I get an answer from that, but then I'll be I follow that up with, now, do you all have anything in place to help with that right now? Any types of programs or plans? And it's the way I'm asking it. It's almost like a concerned, confusion type of tone. And then they're like, no, we don't have anything. Like, Miss Jones, you don't have anything? And she's like, oh, I know. Like my reaction to that, it helps to generate some urgency there. And then, that's when we start moving into the presentation and going through it. But also, when Austin's talking about those 1999 questions. By the way, is that set up? Is that direct deposit, or how does that hit me?
You use my code for that.
But the first question, of those questions, that if you want to reference them, go back and listen to the previous one. But it's what would happen if something, who would be responsible, or what would happen to you if you passed away today without anything? That has to make you start thinking about urgency. And then moving through the rest of those series of questions of diving in and painting that picture, which is building that value, while in the back of their mind they're thinking, oh man, like I really need to do something because there's not anything in place. But another question that I like to ask throughout is, and you can really plate this anyway, is, I'll ask you, Austin, I say, now, Mr. Austin, do you know anybody in your family or friends that has ever had a heart attack or a stroke, or had any other serious health issues? Oh yeah, my brother just had a stroke last week. Blah blah blah. Everybody knows somebody, right? Mm-hmm. Now, do you think they knew they were going to have a stroke or a heart attack the day before? And they're like, oh no. It's like, yeah, life can change at any moment, at any time. One moment we're healthy and we're thinking we're invincible and we're never going to pass away. The next moment we're thinking about, oh, we need to do something to take care of our family because I may pass tomorrow. And just little stories like that, or adding in a story of a client that you've had, or a family member, or a personal, somebody that might have been dealt with that, or that stuff is powerful to be able to help the client realize, like, oh yeah, I've never thought about that. Yeah, he's in a wheelchair now, and blah blah blah, because he had a stroke and he's paralyzed, or he lost the movement of his whole left side of his body, and his whole life's changed now. So just simple questions like that, and that stuff gets lost.
Mm-hmm. Now, when you're asking those questions after they answer, are you like, at what point do you relate that back to how it affects them getting insurance? Is it immediate, or is it later in the presentation? Hey, remember when I asked about heart attacks? If you knew anyone, well, this is how it affects. Like, is it immediate? Like, are you associating it with the answer?
You can follow up on a question like that. I mean, if two ways you can go there. You can ask really good questions, probing questions. Do you have any family members or friends who've had any major health incidents that caught them by surprise? Or have you lost anybody in your family recently? Are your parents still living? These are all great questions, right? And then you can go down a road of, what does that look like for them? Did they keep working? After they had that heart attack or that diagnosis of cancer, you might find out that someone passed away. Do you know if they had insurance? How were they able to take care of that? How's that impacted their family? So you're following up with questions about how that's impacted. And what you're also discovering is their relationship with that person. and how they sense, because the closer they are with that person, the concern level is higher, or the urgency or the importance is elevated. And so you can dive into that. If you have asked some of those questions and you don't really get a lot of feedback, you can share one of your client stories. And so if you've been in the business for a while, share a client story of someone that something's happened to in a similar situation, or even a personal story. Like all of us in this room. Like if I were to go around right now and say, is anybody that you know of had a health incident that changed their ability to qualify for good life insurance, or impacted their ability to work and provide for their family, or were they passed away, or been diagnosed with cancer and now they're battling that?
Or have you known somebody who's passed away and their family had to borrow money or come up with some creative solutions to be able to pay for it? I know people. I mean, there are people in my family who've passed away and they didn't have any coverage.
Yeah, and you see people, online begging for money with the GoFundMe apps, like help pay for their funeral. Well, the only reason they're asking that is because nobody there had prepared.
Correct.
I do not want to go out that way personally, and a lot of our clients don't either. So these are conversations that you can have. So yeah, you're following up with questions, but if you don't get a lot there, you can share one of your client stories, or you can share one of your personal stories from your own family and world, right?
And I would say, let me say something here. I feel like we're kind of, we're giving a lot of little snapshot questions, but the thing I like about, with Zach's approach at the beginning of what made you start thinking about passing, or what made you start thinking about this, some folks send it in because they have some health issues, and some people, maybe they lost somebody. Is what made you start thinking about that? Something along those lines. Is there's some patience that's required to build towards urgency. So that's just the front step of it. And then going into the presentation and allowing the presentation to continue doing that job, and having more of these questions strategically throughout the presentation. Now, we use a very specific presentation that is designed for that. And I know there's some other agents who are just trying to figure it out, and they're kind of winging it.
Yeah.
And they're just trying to sell off their personalities. So hopefully this is helpful for them.
One thing that you said in the last episode, and I even have it here because I wanted to remember, is as agents, we have to think about urgency. It's not something that they're necessarily, it's in their forefront of their mind, but you spoke to how you have to keep it in the forefront. And so, like you said, it's this balance of there's patience in developing it, but there's still this idea of urgency to keep
we have to remember that,
forward.
These clients are people just like me and you. Austin, age doesn't matter in what we do. How often do you think about dying? Right? Probably not. You're thinking of, editing podcasts. You're thinking of, drinking different bourbons or when they're releasing them. We're all guilty of that all day long. But when we remind ourselves of what really matters, and we also have to realize, these clients could be 40 years old, 50 years old, 70, 80, all kinds of different ages. And they've waited the majority of their life and haven't done anything. So urgency was never a big part of their life, but it could be from a multitude of reasons. But we have to know going into that, our job is to help them take care of their family. We have to be an advocate for that beneficiary. And that involves urgency. It involves conviction in our voice and believing in what we're doing and having a heart for our people, but also that person that's on that beneficiary line. As Chris said, we generate that urgency from the beginning when we're transitioning into the presentation, the questions in the middle of the presentation, and as we're going in and closing the presentation. I know in ours, we say in there, Mr. Jones, we have, typically when it comes to taking care of your final expenses, we have a few options. The first option is to simply do nothing. But Mr. Jones, I know that's not an option for you because you told me how much you love your wife and your kids, and you will always be a father and a husband to them and make sure they're taken care of, right? And what are they going to say to that? Of course. You also know, you can say so many different things that pertain to your relationship and things you've gathered and connected with them throughout your presentation. that you're able to use and really explain that, because we're not coming up with these things. We don't have a predetermined line or quote that we say. The most powerful thing is to get to know them, find out why it's important to them, how much they love their family, and we take their words and their feelings and we play it back to them. And when they hear their words coming back to them of what they said about their family, or if the spouse is sitting there listening to me tell him that you care about your family, love them so much, and you're always going to be that father figure for your kids and that husband for your wife, even when you're gone, you're going to make sure they're taken care of, right? Of course, it's re-solidifying that. It's re-letting them know that this is important to them. Their family's important to them. That's what matters the most. We also know that we can pass away at any moment, at any time. We're not promised. We're not promised tomorrow. I tell my clients in every sit, I say, I have no idea when I'm going to pass, and I hope you don't either.
I think we're establishing, as we go through. Zach talked about using their words, right? And so we're asking good questions. We're taking their responses. We're repeating them back to them. And then we're asking for we talked about micro agreements before, tie downs. We call them tie downs or micro agreements. These are confirmations that you're both in agreement on moving forward to the next level. And they know why you're there. You know why you're there. You're a life insurance advisor, an agent. At the end, they know that you're anticipating to take an application. You know that they're anticipating getting information, so make a decision to move forward and place an application. So it's not like some weird song and dance where people don't know what they're doing there, right? Especially if you're working leads. They did have an interest. What you're trying to do is elevate the urgency and the value in the discussion to the point where it's easier for them to make a decision to go forward. So in securing those micro agreements or those tie downs, it's like when you told me about your brother passing away and how that impacted his family and that they didn't really know what to do and you guys all had to pitch in, I can understand now why you don't want that to happen to your family. Mrs. Smith, I can really tell that he wants to take care of this now for you guys. That's really cool to see that. And so you're nodding and they're nodding back and you're getting micro agreements. Some of them are nonverbal, some of them are verbal. I can tell that you really want to take care of this, don't you? Yes, I do. And so you're building, and then you can go on and ask the next and build towards the end. And again, you're clearing the path. You're kind of like the guy in the jungle with the machete, and you're clearing the path to make it very easy for them to walk through to the other side and go ahead and complete the application. So elevating the value, getting those micro agreements, making things simple, and getting to a conclusion.
Are there any other tips or questions that help build urgency?
No, I think it's important to remove distractions. You'll have some folks who who are very comfortable jumping in and out of urgency. Mm-hmm. You'll feel like you have a good pulse on the conversation and the picture that's being revealed to them, and then all of a sudden, they want to talk about their hunting trip. Jump
squirrel.
back. Yeah, like squirrel. Yeah, a squirrel.
Or someone comes into the room.
Oh, yeah.
Someone comes into the home.
Or TV. I'm sure that's...
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, those things have to... these are probably other topics we will talk about in more detail, but taking control of certain situations and being able to recalibrate and get back on track and understanding. That's what I'm saying. And that was a great question, Austin, when you said, we're aware of it. You asked about that. We are aware of it. They aren't aware of it we are. So we have to maintain control and keep them on the path of understanding how important it is.
Chris, that is so important, because when we talk about what we do and just being in homes even this week, like being able to maintain the temperature in the room, let's say through connecting and building trust and asking those emotional questions. Those emotional questions don't work if you're talking about NASCAR racing, your cousins, and then, whenever...
And then dying right in the middle of it all, unless it's a NASCAR accident.
Waiting for Maury to tell you who's the father.
Exactly. Like, you can't connect on that level. And also, as far as... You really ain't going to be able to generate any urgency if you're going through that. It's not going to work. You have to be able to ask those questions to raise the value, to have the urgency.
Right.
Yeah, you're gauging the temperature and you're elevating that as you go through with your line of questioning, your follow-ups, personal stories, narratives, keeping them on track, staying in control. Let's get the TV off so it's not a distraction.
Your tone, the way you're talking to them, when you elevate your voice, when you lower your voice, when you lean in, when you lean back and put your feet up. There's times for all of that, and your body language communicates as much urgency as what you're saying does.
Roger, when you talk about the temperature of knowing when we've asked this for every real reason, is when do you know that you've established enough urgency?
Can I answer this for him? Because I've actually
felt a high level of urgency to answer that.
Yeah, I did because it's funny. I started laughing because it's funny to me because I've seen it, and I picture Chris in my mind right now when he says this. Well, how can you get me this type of coverage? I need this. Whenever you're able to do your full job on that, and your client is almost begging you for insurance, that's when you know.
Well, you've done a really good job then. I don't know if new agents can get there, those act like that quickly.
No, they can get there. It's just going to take time and patience.
It takes time and patience, yeah. So the marinating
the
part.
irony of urgency.
Time and patience. And you got to have it. I mean, to Chris's point, it's like you're setting, it's like building, right? If you ever go to a good, a wedding, you go to a wedding and you got a good DJ. That DJ knows how to set the playlist to get the crowd and the people in the room at the right place at the right time.
So he doesn't play Closing Time as the first song?
No. So, I mean, there's a time and place for let's get up and get this started.
Energy.
And then he slows it down and gets all the sentimental people out dancing. And then he starts bringing it back up, or she. And then they build to the crescendo at the end. And a good DJ can control that room and everybody has a great time. But they've done it so many times, they know how to duplicate that process because they know what people respond to. So this takes practice, it takes patience, and it takes listening and then following up with good questions, asking for those micro agreements or tie downs, getting people to agree with you so you can move forward to the next question, following a presentation, being prepared. Like, if you don't know what you're going to say before you go into a room and you're trying to wing it, like you were talking about, Chris, write down some stories that you can go to. Like, jot them down, practice your craft. And if you don't have any personal stories, Chris, what would you recommend to somebody?
Borrow them,
right? Steal them. If you're working in a group with other agents, steal some of their stories. Like, guys, can you tell me about some times when people had some tragic thing happened and, the life insurance benefit really helped out that family? I'd love to be able to reshare that in a home.
Yeah. I mean, or take them from this podcast, hey, I'm a life insurance agent and there's thousands of us out there, and we've experienced this, right? Yep. We've sat with thousands of people, and this is real, right?
Yeah. We've all heard the forbidden words. Well, you can just leave me your card,
right? Yeah, and we'll think about it.
Are there any other warning signs then, other than we'll leave you your card?
We don't make any decisions today.
We like to sleep on it. Yeah.
That's not true.
Yeah. I mean,
value is not high enough. When they say that, you've not elevated the value enough.
Correct.
Yeah, you've not made it simple enough.
I need to think about it.
There's the value's not there.
And I tell everybody when I'm training. So a lot of people probably heard this, but I always do an example for everybody when it comes to value. I tell them, I got a brand new Porsche SUV in the parking lot.
You had one for me a few weeks ago.
I did, see? It's got plastic on the seats. It's brand new. It's got peanut butter seats in it. I really don't have one, by the way.
Peanut butter.
But it's
peanut butter.
It's beautiful, brand new. And it's
weird color.
It's
I thought it was literally peanut butter.
Well, you guys just ruined the story. It's a $150,000 SUV, but I'll sell it to you right now for $5,000. But you have the first person in this room that goes and gets me that $5,000, it's yours. You can resell it, you can flip it. Now go ahead and take it out of your head that it's a scam or that it's not legit or it's stolen. You've already checked it out, it's fully ready to go. Every single one of you are going to be, calling your wives, trying to transfer money or do whatever you need to do. Roger's going to say, well, I'm signing up for your stock right now. You know, whatever you need to do. And you're going to do that. Why?
Because you've raised the value. I mean, we want it.
But Austin, you're going to be out. You're not going to get it because you have to sleep on it. You don't make any decisions today.
It's like we're in the process of trying to find a house, right? And so
you wouldn't do it?
I generally am the type of person that I don't like to move quickly on a decision, especially one that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? And so, you know, I told her, hey, I'm never going to make a decision with both you and the realtor standing there. Like, we're going to talk about this away. But, like, I want time to think on it. And I do realize that in this market right now, that if we found a house that we love, that we would have to act quickly. But, you know, that's kind of...
But still quickly, you're willing to risk an overnight, right?
Right, because the value is there. We love it enough. So, all right, let's just move forward with it, whatever we got to do.
It's interesting because I've been in homes before, right? You guys have too, I'm sure, where people say, well, let me think about it. Well, how much is it? I don't know. I want to shop around. And they think it's about the price.
Correct.
They think it's about price. And I want to stop them. I just want you to stop there. It's never about the price. And they look at me weird. It's like, it's always about the price. That's what they want to say. It's never about the price. It's about your health and what you can qualify for. In fact, you can't purchase this from me. I can assist you with the application. I can help you submit it. The insurance company has to approve you. And they're going to approve you based on your health. And if anything changes, other than the way you answered the questions, if anything changes tomorrow, the next day, you can no longer qualify for this product. And your price goes up dramatically. But guess what? The people who want life insurance from us the most are the people who can no longer qualify for what you're saying you want to shop around for right now. Because it's never about the price. It's about your health, your age, where you are, how you fit the profile for that carrier. The benefits are there available to you now. The question is, do you want to protect your family or do you want to gamble it? Ultimately, I haven't communicated my story well enough for the value of what this is. Mm-hmm. Because if you're still thinking about price, I don't know if we're going to get there. Because right now I'm looking at your wife and she knows her brother passed away and didn't have a benefit. And her family had to go on Facebook and raise money. Yeah. And she does not want that to happen to her. My question is, do you want that to happen if something happens to you? And so you can get really fast. You're like the real estate agent that says, we need to put an offer in on this today.
Right. Yeah. And that's going to be a challenge for people.
I've gotten that text quite a few times.
and I... Going back to this main idea, practice your craft, and don't, you know, if you blow it, you hear these things. I need to think about it. I need to talk to my kids. I need to.
Yeah, that was my next question. Is like, you sat with someone recently that said they had a bad experience with another agent that, you know, kind of took advantage or told them the wrong thing. If let's say that was around Christmas time, they told their kid that, and their kid's like, no, like you're not doing anything else. Like you need to talk to me, right? Well, how do you battle that? I need to ask my son, right? Like, how do you handle that objection? Any of you?
Let's get your son over here.
Yeah, almost immediately.
Where does your son live? In fact, I don't want to proceed until he's here. Let's get him. Is he close by? Let's get in the car and drive over to his house. Like, this is important. Well, I'll talk to him about it tonight. You can get back to me next week. Next week, I'll be sitting with someone else. Right? I'm here now. You understand the value of this. He wants you to have something in place, but he doesn't want you to make a bad decision, which I get. Mm-hmm. If it was my parents, I wouldn't want them to make it a bad decision either. So let's bring him in on the conversation. I'm not going to try to bypass your son. I want to include him so he understands why.
Well, Mr. Roger, he's at work right now.
Mm-hmm. So here's what I'm going to do. What time is he off work? Is he off at 4?
Yep.
5. 4? Does he come by to see you? Great. He'll be here around 4:30. I'll be here at 4:30 when he gets home. Let's steal him for 10 or 15 minutes and get this finished. I've literally done that, gone out, done another sit, come back at 4:30, daughter comes home, take 10 minutes, run through with her everything I've talked about. If I need to build more core, more value with her or him, I will. But then you can typically close. You have an opportunity to do that because now you have both decision makers in the room. Mm. So there's another variable there, and that's having the decision makers in the room. It may not be about urgency, but it may be about controlling the environment and the circumstances like Chris talked about earlier. In this situation, it's getting another person who needs to help with that decision in the room.
But I will say, if you're hearing the I need to think about it and you walk out of the house, you got to know it's a trigger. You have to know. Like if you didn't get the application, and I really believe the failures are what make you better. And I think people sometimes they feel like they lost, and they feel it the rest of the day, and it affects their sits the rest of the day. So it's better to walk out and say, okay, how could I have generated more urgency, or where did I lose the urgency in there, and take some notes and jot some things down about that conversation so that you are more prepared for the next time.
How many people have taken the day or two to think about it and called you back?
We just talked about this, and I think probably in my 8 years, maybe 5. And I will say I was in a sit, and a gentleman told me, this is probably year 3. And a gentleman told me he needed to think about it. And I was pretty frustrated. I was training an agent, and I said, Mr. James, nobody ever calls back. I'm just being honest with you. Nobody calls back. And I looked at the agent and I said, I bet you $5 he doesn't call back.
With him in front of you?
Yes, in front of the client. And that was the one time that the client called back and had me come out.
It's probably because you frustrated him and challenged his integrity.
I think so. And
had you not said that, he probably wouldn't have called back.
So when I went back, Roger, he said, so you lost a bet, huh?
He wanted to prove you wrong.
He did.
I mean,
I'm not recommending
that was a part of your closing strategy.
How much?
So, but those moments, it's so important to master your craft, be aware of what's going on. And honestly, they don't. I mean, you can buy it as much as you want. They aren't going to call back.
Yeah, Austin, you said, what else can we do, or when do you know? Sometimes they're not going to say, what do I have to do to get this now? Like, what Zach said is it'd be beautiful if we could get all of our clients there. They just don't all get there. However, when you get to a point and saying, I can understand why you want this, I'm assuming it's something you want to apply for if it's affordable for you. Is that correct? That's a big micro agreement, okay? I'm assuming this is something you want to apply for to take care of this for your family if we can find an affordable plan for you. Is that right?
Yeah, or, I mean, this is just spitballing because, I'm new here. Is like, let's see what the lowest price is that we can get for you today. Like, would adding today in there help? I mean,
well, here's the problem there. You said, let's see what the lowest price is. Okay. It's not about that, right?
It's not about the price
the price does not matter. It's about taking care of the need, building the value on there, and taking care of that daughter or that son or that spouse or whoever. That's what it's for. It's never about price.
So let's see what the most coverage we can get for you and your family today.
I always say if it's affordable, is that something you want to apply for to take care of this for your wife, or take care of this for your daughter, or take care of this for your family? And sometimes they will push back and say, well, it depends on the price. And then I'll say, well, that's why we said if it's affordable. You get to determine how much you want to put in your plan for your family.
Right.
You can put in as little or as much as you want. You're setting money aside for them. It's just attached it's just attached to this thing called a policy with a life insurance company instead of sitting in a bank. So you're just redirecting the funds for your family. You get to determine that. So I'm assuming if it's something that's affordable and workable for you, you do want to apply because you do want to take care of this benefit, right?
You do want to protect your family.
Yeah. So it's about the value has to go on the benefit for their family, never on the price. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, basically remove price from your vocabulary.
It still has to be affordable.
Right.
But that's not the focus of the conversation or the closing point. The focus is the benefit. Do you want a benefit for your family? If it was free or if it was $1 million, would you like a benefit for your family? Yes. So then let's find something affordable to take care of it, okay?
I don't want to get too much into next week's episode. And that's a wrap for today's episode. Thanks so much for listening to the Life Insurance Academy podcast. For Cliff Notes, resources, and maybe even a free stock, visit liapodcast.org/EP7. That's liapodcast.org/EP7. If you enjoyed this podcast, make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening, rate us 5 stars, and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Life Insure Acad. The Life Insurance Academy podcast is hosted, edited, and mixed by me, Austin Lopes-Rivero. This episode was produced by Roger Short and myself. Our theme song is by Flashing Lights. We'll catch you on another episode, including next week's show, where we discuss the final reason why people don't buy. Affordability.
Show me the money.
Until next time, drive safely and go be a difference maker.